If we could call the May 16th meeting of the Board of Education to order. If you all look at your agenda, if we could review the minutes of the April 18th meeting first. If everybody takes a look, they're in your packet. And when you're ready, if I could have a motion to approve the April 18th. Brendan? And second? Sherry? All those in favor? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to our May 2nd workshop. If you could look at those minutes, and when you're ready, if I could have a motion to approve those workshop minutes. Penny? Second? Hazel? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the agenda. If you could take a look at the agenda, and if I could get a motion to approve the agenda that you see before you. There's a few reasons.
Do I just highlight the revisions?
Yeah.
Let me, if I could do that momentarily. There's just a couple of small revisions here we wanted to put before you for approval tonight with the agenda. We added the statement of accounts to reports and recognition, and then we also have the action item later for a statement of accounts. So Dr. Keating will go through the overview, and then we'll vote on it a little bit later in the meeting. We did the same thing with the office renovations. There's then later in the action items the office lease amendment, a motion to approve the superintendent to enter into the amendment. And then we changed slightly the item 10, adjourning to executive session. We wanted to make clear that the personnel matters, that the person being discussed was notified of the meeting being an executive session, that that person agrees to, that it should be an executive session and has declined the offer to attend.
All right. So with that information, if I could get a motion to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting. Sherry, second. Hazel, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous for those in attendance. Okay. Moving on to comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. Do I have anyone here that wants to? Seeing none, we will move on to reports and recognition. The first item on our agenda is the senior internship update with Ms. Carroll.
I bought my own water.
Okay.
Budget savings. I just want you to notice.
Well done.
Okay. Good evening. Today was a very good day. 160 members of the class of 2016 began their internships at 119 unique sites throughout the community. And there were no problems, issues, concerns, or phone calls. Yay! That ends my report for the
Proper planning.
So you might ask, how did we get here with 160 interns when just 6 years ago we had but 12? We doubled our 80 interns last year to this year. Obviously, it's been a lot of hard work by the Senior Internship Committee, which has guided the process since the beginning. Community members and business folks, Melanie Berman, Michael Dinan, Beth Dwyer, BJ Flagg, Marty Mackay, Jerry Miller, Dan Mulhern, Tucker Murphy, Wendy Pratt, teachers Jim Zambarano and Kat Munson, and school counselors Susan Lency and Linda McGann have been instrumental in the growth of the program. And as you can see, I travel with my posse. The process has been the same since year one. Online applications open early December and close 4 weeks later. While this is ongoing, the committee is diligently seeking out internship locations, and this continues until all interns are placed. Students are then interviewed. That's right, we interviewed 172 original candidates. We discuss with them their interests, their talents, and what they hope to achieve through an internship. As you can see through the application, interview, attention to deadlines, and quality of communications, we are trying to mirror a nascent entree into the employment world. This is critical as the cohort of last year's interns, out of 80 interns, 86% of them had never had a job before, not even babysitting. The committee matches interns to sites by the end of February. This matching of interns to sites is a unique aspect of our internship, as opposed to students selecting internships from a listing. Training is held in March, this year at the same day that the younger kids sat for the in-state SAT. We all squeezed in here in the Wagner room, 170 kids with their devices on tables. They had their rudimentary resumes with them. A local marketing executive spoke to the students about their personal brands and advised them to do a social media inventory before they began their internships to make sure that their online presence would be palatable to future employers. Then an executive recruiter, from a Fortune 500 company talked to the interns about workplace behavior, wardrobe, etiquette and technology, and even sexual harassment. The conversation was interactive, with students given real work situations to see how they would handle them. And then the expert would offer her point of view. Both of these professionals also offered their personal contact information to the students should they have any additional questions. We then worked on resumes, making them college ready. The students will add their internship to that resume in 4 weeks and use them again for our last bit of training when they attend a LinkedIn workshop on June 13th. By the way, this training is one of the major characteristics of the New Canaan Senior Internship Program that sets us apart from our DERG group. Grade sign-offs happened on Friday, and we are now off to the races. Students will work at least 25 hours a week for 4 weeks, while still participating in sports and theater. They will journal each week about their experiences, and because I can't be in 119 different places, each student has a mentor from either the New Canaan High School faculty or the SIP steering committee to help out when needed and to read and comment on the interns' journals. This year there are 63 mentors. 58 of them are from the high school. 1, Jill Carenti, is from central office, and 4 are from the SIP committee. So you might ask, what will our interns be doing for the next 4 weeks? Well, pretty much anything. Students will be a big presence in the New Canaan public school system. There are 3 in Dr. Lutzie's office. We will have a couple at town hall, not near as many as I would like. They are at companies big and small in a wide variety of industries. They are at nonprofits doing a variety of awesome things. They are at some retail establishments. One will even be working in a kitchen, I'm sure chopping lots of celery, and and trying his hand at as a line cook. They are putting together bicycles and learning about oyster farming. They are working in home design and building construction. One is in a gallery and one in a glass house. A few are reporting, honing their skills on online journalism. Some are doing project-based internships, such as making how-to videos for the New Canaan Public School Textpert group, or working on photographic and oral history projects with some of the town's other seniors. Some will be running tech classes at Lapham for that same population on using smartphones and other devices. I have it from a reliable source that the Chamber of Commerce intern will be spending 4 weeks getting to know everything about suburban parking, including counting spaces, and applying that to New Canaan's current problem. In general, they are being helpful, mastering new skills, sharpening existing ones, and learning about themselves as fish out of water. They are and have been marvelous ambassadors for the New Canaan public school system. Needless to say, we are very proud of the program and its growth and its standing in the community. But of course, there are a few things that keep me up at night. The challenges ahead, for example, with all high schools in Fairfield County offering internship programs, how do you find meaningful sites? This year, only 20 of the 119 sites came from students themselves. And we have found over the last few years that sites that students secure themselves don't seem to offer as powerful an internship experience, perhaps because there is too much familiarity with the host. You should know as a board, the added courses in STEM have piqued students' interest in environmental science, engineering, medicine, computer science, so good job. But Fairfield County is not a STEM-rich employment hotspot, so matching these students' interest is a challenge to say the least. Also, how do you offer training to 200 to 300 interns, which in another year or two will be at, I'm sure? First of all, where do you conduct the training? Splitting the group is tough. It doesn't always serve them equally, each group. Without training, we're offering a watered-down experience and sending out interns that are less prepared. I am mindful of the students who don't choose to become interns. Those students don't receive any of the information that the interns receive on personal branding, resume writing, employment skills, workplace behavior, which seems to me to be a bit unfair. You can imagine the paperwork that needs to be managed in an internship program this size. My contemporaries at other Fairfield County high schools use a program called the Student Employment Software. Jim Hohortz, the principal who created the software, presented to the SIP committee twice already, and I think it's time that we finally purchase the program. We have hesitated to do so because of a lack of personalization, and I'm all about the personalization. Matt Selvestrini has vetted the program and has agreed to purchase it, so that should make the paperwork more manageable next year. How will we mentor 200-plus interns? We had some difficulty, frankly, getting mentors this year. Thank goodness some of the committee stepped up. This challenge is only going to grow. And on a personal note, how do I do the job I was hired for 14 years ago, my first love, running the College and Career Center, and still coordinate the senior internship program with all the attention it deserves? So you see a few things about our future as we look towards it. But I am happy to appreciate where we are now, which is pretty terrific. We will celebrate the interns' accomplishments at a reception on June 14th at 5 p.m. in the auditorium. It is a lovely evening with reps from the sites attending along with interns and their families, an evening of goodwill for New Canaan, the community, and you are all invited. This year we're pleased to have Mrs. West, Colleen O'Leary, who was an intern at Nielsen 5 years ago and now is going to be, upon her graduation from Villanova this year, gainfully employed by Nielsen, a full circle moment. I want to leave you with a few comments that I think represent the senior internship program. From a new site coordinator at Caramore, thank you again for all your communication regarding the New Canaan internship program. It's the best I've experienced in all the years I've been supervising interns from high school and college. From a parent of a junior just this afternoon, your hard work has paid off. I just saw student so-and-so at Walter Stewart's looking very professional, getting his lunch with his internship employer. You should be so proud of the work and care you and the internship committee put in to give our seniors this amazing opportunity. And from a student who is interning at a Stanford nonprofit, I wanted to let you know that I met with my site supervisor today to set up a schedule for the internship. I am very excited about it. It's incredible, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to tell you what has happened with the Internship 2016. If you have any questions or comments.
Well, first I'd like to say bravo, Sue. It's
Wow.
and your committee.
Yeah, I was going to say, I stand on their shoulders,
committee.
trust me.
I know it's a Herculean job, and you're providing an amazing opportunity for the seniors of New Canaan High School that will be, formative for them as they go forward. So, we really appreciate all your efforts on their
Thank you.
behalf. I'd like to open it up to questions. I have a few myself, but I'll give the committee or the board a chance first. Any questions for Sue or comments? Sherry?
So
Sherry, a host for an intern, I might add. This is like Oprah, where I go around and say, you get an intern, you get an intern, you get an intern.
and then I feel like the winners. No, I just want to say bravo to you and the committee. And I've watched this internship for the past 6 years, and I've seen you grow it in such a thoughtful and controlled manner. And I firmly believe that this experience, especially given that stat, 86% of these students have not had previous work experience, I feel like this program is so crucial to properly prepare these students to go on to consider careers in college and so forth. And just from a personal note, as you mentioned, I'm thrilled that my nonprofit, Live Grow, got an intern. And I just have to say, being on the other side now, I've been so impressed with the process. First being contacted by the faculty advisor, sitting down with her and discussing the match and the assignment, and then having my intern come today so well prepared. I mean, she had done her homework. She had, researched the nonprofit space, and she dove right in today. And actually, I told Dr. Leslie I felt like I got a gift from heaven, because this morning we spent several hours kind of talking through and working through her assignment, and by the end of the day, she had already produced something back to me. And I mean, it's amazing. So kudos to you.
Well, hopefully you'll
for
thank
everything you've
me
done.
in 4 weeks, because it's hard to have an intern.
No, I
They're
said
smart and quick.
No, but congratulations. 'cause
Thank you.
It's amazing what you've done.
Thank you.
Penny?
I was talking with a parent who a long time ago moved here from Scarsdale. She said, I really love the New Canaan schools, except Scarsdale has this internship program, and you don't have it here in New Canaan. And it was one of the formative experiences for my kids who were there. And I was very sad that my youngest didn't get it in New Canaan. So thank you for now providing it for about, I guess, half our senior class. So I look forward to hearing proposal that you'll have to make if it's going to have a financial impact in the fall for how we can continue this program. I know it's been on the backs of volunteers and yourself, and how we can grow it. And also particularly, I like the fact that even for those students who for good reason decide that they don't want to do an internship at this point, the fact that if we can figure out a way for them to get all the training that the others are getting, I think that would be fabulous.
Well, I offered my services to an English teacher last week who said, what am I going to do? I only have 4 or 5 kids left in my AP English class. And I said, well, I'm happy to come in and talk about social media inventory and resume writing. And, that's where my heart is in all things work-related. So I'm happy to do that. But we do have to do something for those kids because they are underserved. It was their own free will to not do the internship, but they are not getting something that I think is crucial to, and if you listen to the experts, they told the kids how crucial all of this stuff was.
Well,
So-
and having seen a number of kids go through college now, I think to build those skills so that they can take full advantage of their off terms and their summers, and they go in confident and not with those skills already there, so they
Right.
don't have to develop them as much in college. I think we would be well serving them. So so a way that we could build that program to go across all seniors in some fashion, I would be really interested to see that proposal as well. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Sherry?
Just a follow-on question to that. So do we know, have we surveyed the students who didn't opt in for an internship to understand their reasoning? I personally know some seniors who actually admitted that, oops, they missed the deadline. And I'm just wondering, how much of it is a thoughtful decision to not do the internship versus maybe a processing issue?
Well, I think just the numbers bear out that our marketing efforts are very good. From now on, these kids have always had an internship program. That it's
Right.
always been in existence here. There are some kids that just anecdotally just want to sit in the hallway and eat French fries. They worked hard. They had their foot on their gas pedal for 12 years, and they don't want to do anything else. Some people did apply, got through the process, didn't like where they were placed, so they dropped out. Some people's grades didn't enable them to do the internship. So, but I think if you were to talk to seniors today, for example, when they saw the lonesome parking lot and they only had 2 kids in their classes and, gee, work was still going on, they were regretting their not applying. So. But no, we actually have not formally asked the people that have stayed behind. We could do that.
Sangeeta?
Hi, Sue.
Hi,
Again,
Sangeeta.
Wonderful program. I mean, I've seen it grown, and you've done such a spectacular job. And I think we're all kind of very supportive of this program. It's a great opportunity for kids to get some real-world experience. And I just want to add, too, even for those kids who don't get necessarily placed exactly in the field of interest, I know, like, for one of my sons who went through the program, it was just a chance of meeting and seeing how business is conducted and other things of just how people act in a professional manner when they're speaking in a counseled setting versus, at home with a contractor, and just understanding just life skills that they don't get in the school system. My one concern was that you mentioned too that we don't have very many companies that are in the STEM industry or other science related, and that is the direction that we are encouraging. And even though they can get other things from the current like I said, like my son got, from learning just about how to be in the real world. Do you have ideas about how we could do that?
It's not for the lack of trying, as I bet you can imagine.
Yes, it's just
we're kind of
proximity.
relentless, to be honest with you. Anybody you meet, no matter where you meet them, you're asking them if they want an intern. We run into a problem with medicine because of freedom of information, privacy laws, but also throughout really STEM fields especially, there are so many college students coming home in May at the exact same time that we run our internship program, that if you can take a college kid who has had more significant coursework, then you're going to do that over a high school senior, even though the enthusiasm from the high school senior is probably even better. But we're trying to be creative, Sangeeta. For example, as far as engineering is concerned, I have there was a young man who just really loves putting things together, and he really wanted jet engineering, and he's putting together bicycles. But the skill set and what he's learning actually fits the bill for what he thought he wanted. We also have an incredible student who will study engineering who is working on cars. When we talk to the kids, we do thoroughly ask them what they're interested in, but we're very honest with them about what's available. And so we say, well, you know what? If we can't get you that, what would you just like to do for 4 weeks that you're never, ever going to get a chance to do? You are never so free as being a senior in high school with your grades frozen. What do you want to do? And they tell you, well, you know what? I'd like to work in a nursery school. This student has 102 average. She's working in a nursery school. I would like to cook. I would like to bake. I would like to work in a gallery, because I'm never going to do that. So as much as I understand the concept of getting your first, your foot in the door, how about just doing something different, or paying back the community that has safely and wonderfully educated you by working at a nonprofit? Work is work. And putting on a different outfit and being with people that you are not used to being with and speaking in complete sentences, these are very important things. And so as much as I hope that we find more science and engineering, I'm also mindful that there's other ways to go.
I like your approach. I think that's fabulous, and that the kids see that, and that there's opportunities, even if it's not exactly a perfect match.
Right.
And I want to tell you, when I attended one of the dinners that you had to celebrate, the internships, I think the year before, the people who actually, spoke that took the interns, they were, I think, got as much out of it as the students did. I was amazed to hear their stories of what the students created and what they did for them, just learning personally, too, about their own business. So you're right, it works both ways.
Yep.
Hazel?
I hate to repeat the things everybody said, so I'll just say thank you, a big thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Hazel.
I did have 2 thoughts about
Yes.
your STEM, and I have no idea. Knowing you've probably already done them.
But let's hear them.
So one is the career night, that the people that come, now, of course, they're nice to come and be doing the presentation, so we want them to come back. And so we don't want them to feel as if every time they step in, we've got another job for them. But I know you'd be tactful and diplomatic.
Yeah, and in fact, that's where we've gotten a couple of
Lot
our slots. So we're very, very grateful for them. And we, I have to say, great for the Board of Ed who, environmental science is huge with the kids now. I don't know how many And we have found some places to place those kids.
That's great.
So I think, we need to hit town hall some more because, gee, some of the engineering kids could certainly be there. We have some ideas. We're as I said, we're relentless.
Well, I know that we ask for a list of people in STEM careers to talk, and maybe it's overlapping to ask them. And again, can the students come and work in their professions or in their jobs? But we have a list, don't we, of STEM people that we're collecting for speaking to classes.
Yep.
Well, and also we have put a mileage parameter on this. This is a high school internship, and we are not really letting kids go into New York City or we do have somebody at Essex talk about STEM, Essex STEAM train this year, so that's a drive, but we don't really want them. We want to be fair. If one person can afford a train ticket into New York City but somebody else can't, we're trying to make things an equal opportunity internship program. But we'd be happy to take any names and contact people. We'd be happy to do
I don't
that.
know where they're located, so I can't say. You may be right that if they're too far away, that would interfere. But it was just a thought of some more resources. And I think just talking about it here makes us all aware, and I'm hoping people who love to watch this TV show that are watching and thinking of who they might know that's involved in science,
Thank you.
technology, or engineering and math.
Sangeeta.
I just have one more question. I know that this program is expanded exponentially. You need to have more support, and forgive me if I didn't hear it because I didn't hear the beginning part. Are you going to be coming back to us or can tell us what kind of things you're going to need to continue growing this program? Because as great as you are, and even the committee is, I think that it's gone beyond, and we want to keep it moving.
Well, I think I have talked to Dr. Lutzy about getting together early in the fall, and I serve at the pleasure of the Board of Education. So it will be, what direction do you want it to go in? You can say you want to open it to everyone, but are you willing to then do this, this, and this? So we need to sit down and, as we have been careful through the whole process, thank goodness for the committee, we need to be careful about the growth also. You don't want the thing to implode. And you also don't want it just to be nothing. My parents have a house in Turks and Caicos, and I'm going to fly down there for 4 weeks and work with sea turtles. Well, there's a STEM job for you.
There you go.
Yeah, so we have to think about it, be thoughtful about it, and we will do that this fall.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
I had two questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned a June 13th LinkedIn workshop. Could you just give us a little bit more information about that and what it's going to be about?
So for the last couple of years, as you well know, and I'm sure Gary Cass could talk to this also, but LinkedIn is a big part of employment nowadays. And so we started a couple of years ago having someone who knows LinkedIn like the back of her hand come and talk to the students. So now we have them bring in their resume that they brought in originally, not something that is 8 pages long and has every award that they've ever gotten, but something that they actually can use in college. And we're going to this year have them bring in a picture also, because we're going to be uploading pictures to the profile. They will set up their LinkedIn profile together with us all. We'll talk about what areas, and I'm sure they'll be inviting some of you to be linked in with them, because that's how we sort of test it out. And we talk to them about the pitfalls of your online presence, but also the glory of your online presence. If there's anything that we want to hammer home by the end of this internship, it's about what you put out there, that we want them to be able to grow on it. And I know from the interns who are now juniors and seniors in college, I can see that their LinkedIn profile that they started at New Canaan High School has now grown and been added to, which is marvelous. So that's what we're going to do. That will take about a 90-minute presentation, and then members of the committee will sit with the kids. We'll have the kids do an online survey about the internship program, and we will debrief at that point too. We debrief every time we have the kids together about what we've done. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, that's a great thing to have, everyone to have. So I think
Well,
that's wonderful.
you know,
that
the thing about it is, it doesn't matter what your SAT scores are, what college you're going to, everyone's going to have a LinkedIn account, everyone is going to be able to put their precious internship on that LinkedIn account. It's a great equalizer. It's wonderful.
That's great. And then I guess I would just say, you know, as you're interviewing these kids and seeing sort of where we need development, you know, I think it would be wonderful to debrief with sort of the various department chairs and Jill and Dr. Crunty and Dr. Lutzy about what is it as a district that maybe we need to be developing earlier in kids? Are there things, or is this just a natural progression that they're going to get as they're, you know, getting older? You know, are there public speaking skills that we should be developing earlier? Are there, you know, so I mean, I think it could be a good curriculum discussion that is generated after seeing sort of what's going on with our seniors. So
Good.
that's just
Okay.
a thought. Any other? Okay, thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Come to the microphone.
I was just saying, you know, from where I sit, it's really important to thank all of the work sites as well. It sounds like a great thing. You get this energetic student who comes in who wants to do all this stuff for you, but you have to imagine your desk on a Monday morning, you've got a zillion phone calls to make, and you've got this kid standing there saying, all right, what am I supposed to do? And you're like, all right, just a minute. And the phone's ringing, and everybody's standing there. So it is a great thing, but it does take some work on the site's behalf, too. So I'm sure Sue can get you a list of everybody that's doing it for us, but make sure you thank them all because they're really the heroes in this as well.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you.
thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, so the next item on our reports and recognition is the office renovations at 39 Locust Avenue, and Dr. Lutzy will give us an update. Oh, my goodness.
Well, first, you think I would have learned by now never to follow Sue Carroll in presenting and talking to the board. I'll do my very best, but she is definitely a tough act to follow. And all of the accolades, all of the praise you shared with her tonight is certainly well-deserved. She's doing outstanding work, so thank you. I want just to take a couple of minutes tonight, if you don't mind, to talk a bit about the planning that's been going on and where we are as far as the renovation, the tenant improvements to 39 Locust Avenue. If you'll recall, about 6 weeks ago at a Board of Education meeting, I mentioned that we were in conversation with our new building owner to perform some updates to the space. And I wanted to talk to you tonight about the conversations that we've had, give a little bit of history about this, and let you know the plans in the hopes that in the action items, you'll authorize me to go ahead and sign the lease amendment number 1 to our lease that we have with 39 Locust Ave with the owners FJL Holdings. I thought we'd start just very quickly with the background of our time over at Central Office, and you do have a hard copy of the presentation in front of you there. People are generally surprised to hear that we have been at 39 Locust Ave since 1992. It seems like it's a conversation that we have had through the years about our occupancy there. But the fact of it is, we've been there since '92. The most recent renovations to the space occurred just prior to our occupancy in 1992, until the new owner who bought the building this past year. So there was one owner throughout, and it's worked out well for us, and I'll get into that in a moment. But it did about a year ago sell to a new owner, gentleman who lives out in California and has family here in town, who's looking for it to be a long-term investment for him and his family. Since purchasing about a year ago, that owner has replaced the roof, paved the parking lot and done some other improvements to the site for us and for the other occupants of the building to make it just a more comfortable space. And important to note as well, as far as that building itself and the space that we are there, we occupy most of the building. Say over 2/3 of the building is occupied by the Board of Education, starting on the first floor with our launch program, which is our 18 to 21 special education program that Darlene has put together and continues to be an outstanding model locally and even beyond. In the second floor, we occupy about 2/3 of that space with our special education department and curriculum and instruction department. That's a little over 3,000 square feet that we have there. And then the third floor, as you know, we occupy the entire floor of the third floor, which is a little over 5,500 square feet. And currently in that space, we have several different departments: building and operations, human resources, tech, technology, and the superintendent's office. So you can see we have quite a bit of space there. We've got quite a few departments in the building itself. And there are many benefits to the location at 39 Locust Ave. Certainly for our launch program, it's an excellent location for our launch program because of its nearness to internship sites. You know, we heard Sue talk about our student interns. An essential component of the launch program is the internships for those students as well. Those are students who have completed the high school program but are not yet ready to leave the high school experience entirely or leave the public school experience. So it's a transitional experience for them. And part of that is about being successful in a workplace. It's about independence. It's about self-advocacy, things like that. So it's an excellent location for that reason. And also there's space downstairs for the vans that are coming and going to bring students to these internship sites and to work with the children, bringing them to the program at some points and bringing them to internships and back and other things like that. So launch we feel is in an excellent place there. The other functions for us at central office, and you know what they are, benefits to 39 Locust include that location where we're close to all of our schools. A couple of years ago, we moved our district registration to central office, where prior to that it was happening at each individual building, and a family that had come into town might have to go to 2 different buildings, even 3 different buildings to register their children. We thought that was an inefficient use of their time, and our process was difficult to keep the process uniform throughout. So we centralized registration, and which has worked very well for us and continues to get better. And this location for us right downtown helps people to find us. Often we'll have families with their children come. They'll come register. They'll go out to lunch. They'll walk around town a little bit. It's a very nice introduction to New Canaan for them. The fact that we have multiple departments in one location helps us in our work because we are always talking with one another. There's so much crossover between departments that work, I think, is really enhanced and improved because we see each other throughout the day and we're able to make each other better throughout our work. We do have sufficient parking, which is not commonly heard in town. We've got over 30 employees every day at 39 Locust. Of course, we'd always like more parking. When we have larger meetings and things, it can get a little bit tight, but the same owner owns the building next to us, and he allows us, when we are packed and there aren't any spots, he allows us to go ahead and park at that building as well in some of those spaces. So that's a little bit of overflow. We have parking behind the building, under the building, and then there's even a below-ground parking lot, which, now that I've said publicly, will also be filled every day. But it does work well. As far as the square footage goes, we believe there's adequate square footage for central office functions. And again, that location at 39 Locust is close to the town hall, the police station, the fire department, the library, the Vine Cottage, different town services and town buildings, which is helpful for us as we go through our day. It's certainly helpful for me as superintendent as I'm going to different meetings regularly. I'm able to get from place to place in a timely way to try to get to my meetings on time. So there are many benefits to 39 Locust. There are, however, some constraints, and that's what we're looking to remedy with the proposal that you have in front of you. The largest, most significant constraint is really focused around safety and security. You know, as we moved into the building, we occupied a space that was an office building that was designed for several different businesses to rent different offices. As a result, there's not a central reception area for visitors on either floor. So as people come to visit central office, they come up the stairs or come up the elevator, and they enter the door or walk down the hallway, and they have open access into all of the different offices, all of the different spaces. That I've spoken with colleagues throughout the area. We appear to be the only district that doesn't have a security system at our central office. I've spoken with staff, and this is an area of concern. So we're looking to resolve this issue by putting in a reception area in each building where it would be a buzz-in system, and we would look to do it on the same proxy reader that we have now in our schools with our staff IDs. So it'd be connected, the system would be connected to the schools in that way. Again, lack of control, and there is still a mixed use to the building, right? On the second floor, there's a travel agency on the second floor, and then there's another office as well that's currently being renovated that's had social work for the last couple of weeks, and prior to that was an investment firm. So we do have, being a mixed-use building, I think makes it more important even to have that reception area for folks on the second floor in the office area, and then of course on the third floor when they get off the stairs. The layout, as I mentioned, the way the building was designed is not for one occupant across, say, the third floor, the way that we have it. So the spaces are not right-sized for the functions. We've really kind of flipped it and sort of made the function fit into the space instead of designing or having spaces that are appropriate for those functions. There's not sufficient office space. What's happened is because it's designed to go to different renters initially, there's compartmentalization by department. So for instance, in the different corners of the building, from the business office to the superintendent's office, we go days, I don't see the people who are in there as we're going through work, and unless we seek each other out in different ways. Certainly Joanne and I are regularly talking, but there are sort of nooks and crannies. We fit people into spaces that were never designed to have people. You know, some storage closets, some other ways. We have some people in hallways, just to try to make all of this work. And we've done it, you know, and it's been a while, but this is an opportunity, I think, for us to resolve those issues as well. And then, of course, the function of the building, the meeting space for the Board of Education. We've all been in the conference room, which I believe is woefully inadequate for a Board of Education. There are no other spaces for other meetings, such as meetings with special education, with parents, with other folks. There's also not confidential space. You know, that building in its construction currently, the walls stop at the ceiling, and then there's empty space above. And so from one office to another, one space to another, conversations such as this, you can hear them next door as we're going through, which we want to resolve that issue as well. So that's the function piece. So we have an opportunity with the owner to perform tenant improvements on the space, to perform some renovation. And what those renovations would be focused on would, of course, be that safety and security for staff. We would look at right-sizing the office spaces and the workspaces, converting unusable space that we currently have, so hallways and some storage closets, into usable areas. You know, currently we are paying rent on the hallway on the third floor. As you look at that, as we're renting that entire third floor, and I think that I know that can be put to much better use. Updating our workspaces to improve the flow and efficiency of our efforts here, creating those confidential spaces for the meetings that, obviously, in human resources and special education, in all of our areas, in business, we need spaces to have those confidential conversations. And so in the renovation, they would look to, instead of stopping the wall at the ceiling, build the walls to the deck so that you have a barrier for sound, and we can have those conversations confidently. Looking to update the lighting to improve the efficiency therein, and also properly wiring the electrical network and others to meet the demands on the systems today. Again, the building hasn't been updated in quite a bit, and so we have extension cords and power strips in places that really would be better wired. Instead of a 2-outlet box, you have a 6-outlet box, and wire it appropriately that way. As a result of the renovations we're talking about, those tenant improvements, we'd look to make some changes around the use of the building. Of course, launch would remain exactly where it is. On the second floor, special education and curriculum instruction would remain, and transportation would move to that space as well, which gives us a door for the drivers to enter and exit through, because each day all of our drivers check in with Roy, and that, I think, helps them to have a smoother flow in and out, easier access to Roy in that conversation. On the third floor, business superintendent of schools would remain, business and operations, HR would remain. Facilities will be joining us over at central office because the facilities role now, it's at each of the 5 locations, of course, but much of it is about purchasing, meeting, conversations, and the financing of the capital projects as well. So being in the central office, it will help with the management of those efforts and allow Bob, who are manager of facilities, to be more effective when they're out in the field. So that support that we can offer in the central office around the purchasing and the financing, it will help a great deal. Our district registrar would remain. Our district data team would be there, and our communications coordinator would be there as well. Currently, as you likely know, we have our technology department on the 3rd floor. And as we look at this and think about, the workflow of that, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The technology department receives quite a few items as we go into the summer, as you can imagine. In order to receive those now, they all travel up to the 3rd floor, go into the room, they're tagged and counted and set up, and then they go back to the elevator, back down, back out to the buildings. And there's a lot of man hours that it takes to move the equipment around, let alone set it up. So what we're looking to do is have, where facilities is, have Bob and this department move into the central office, then have the technology department move to where Bob is, in the Saks basement, which is not usable space for students in any way, but provides us with a large room where they can receive their equipment, they can stage their deployments, and it also puts technology where the action is. I like our tech folks to be in the schools so that they're there to problem solve, they're right on site, and Saks is our largest school at the moment, so I think they're in exactly the right spot. So that shift allows us to right-size some spaces, make some moves with our folks in order to, I think, really improve that efficiency and effectiveness for them. Let's see. Good. So the plan for this is, again, we've been working with the owner for the last several months in conversation about all this, is for the owner will fund the tenant improvements to an agreed upon amount. Sorry. And we've been talking with him about that and sort of where that would land. The work would be performed this summer, which means at the end of the school year, so right away in June, we will vacate the premises. We will go to Saks because it's the place to be this summer with everything happening there. It'll be good to be on site. And then when the work is completed after the first week of August, we'll move back into the central office building the week of August 8th. We're leaving wholesale instead of trying to phase this through. In order to facilitate the work, what will happen is they'll be able to come in, do all of the demo in the 3rd floor and all of the demo in the 2nd floor simultaneously, then rebuild, have us move back in all at once. It's quite a bit of work at those moments, but we avoid the noise, the disruption, distraction of the demo and the construction going on. And the construction of that building is interesting. It's different than a home in that the support is all exterior to the building, and then there are a few metal support beams, but not many. So as they do this work, they literally can remove all of the walls. There are no support walls like we're used to. So they can take down all of the walls as they need to and then rebuild them back up, which actually saves some money, saves a lot of time, and lets us create the space that'll be most effective for the Board of Education. So we would then, over a 10-year period, pay back the landlord for the tenant improvements that he would perform. And then at the conclusion of those payments, the rent would return to the negotiated rates, which is on the same trajectory as our lease has been for since '92. So we'd return back to those rates, or 90% of fair market value at that point. And one of the great things about the whole proposal is that the renovations enable savings for us in other areas that goes a long way to offset the costs of the improvements that we're talking about. So that's sort of the very quick version. I'll just show you a before and after. So currently, this is our 2nd floor existing space, and I don't have a laser pointer. Oh, maybe I can use this. I can. So the upper left-hand side, and where the dotted lines are, from the upper right-hand corner to the stairway, you see that area. That's the 2nd floor, and that's the space that we use in the 2nd floor. So the existing 2nd floor, you can see how the rooms are sort of odd-shaped a little bit and irregular. And again, we've made this work well, but what we'd like to do is renovate it to look like this. And so if you go again to the upper right-hand side and across to the left-hand staircase, you see what we've done is take the irregular spaces and created office spaces with a meeting room in the corner and a kitchenette area for the folks who work on that floor. And when you come off the stair 1 at the bottom right-hand side, and you come up, you're in that general lobby because this is shared space. But then as you walk through the doors, that's where the reception would be on the 2nd floor. Okay? On the 3rd floor, this is our existing space. And just for your orientation, the bottom left-hand office space is my office. So that's the superintendent's office there. The conference room is the top left-hand space. Okay? And then the stairs that you would enter are the bottom right-hand side. So that's just for your orientation to the building. So you see, this is the demo plan essentially. So every dotted line, those are the walls that would all come down. And what we'd look to do again is create a space. Now, because we have this whole floor, we're renting the entire floor. As you come up the stairs, that would be the reception area where the bathrooms are there. And there would be a table and a phone to call in. And then as you look around the perimeter, the offices are workspaces. And in the center of the building are different areas for support staff and other folks, our business folks, our payroll, our human resources folks, our data team, our registrar, and others. So what we've looked to do is keep the office spaces around the outside, create those confidential spaces, and reestablish the center of the building in more of an open floor concept for our other folks. Okay. So I am happy to take questions. What I'm asking the board to do tonight is authorize me to enter into the agreement with our landlord, FJL Holdings, and we can do under action items. We can take a look at that. But until we get there, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Lutzy. I think, before we open it up for questions, I just think it's important to reiterate it's been over 24 years since the space that we're in has been touched. And I don't know too many homeowners or business owners who last that long without any renovations to their space. And also, I think the safety and security concerns are real and something as a board we really need to take note of for the staff. So any questions by the board or comments? Tom.
I just want to comment in one question. It looks like a very solid plan. Your last note, renovations enable savings in other areas of the budget to offset costs. Will that totally offset costs or savings, do you think? And is that over 10 years? I mean, how does that, is it sort of an immediate savings, or it's over the course of,
Sure.
the project?
It comes close to completely covering.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And it is over the 10 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other? Brendan?
Are there any other areas in town that you think would work just to rent? My expectation is probably not, knowing how much space the board needs, but have you looked into that at all?
Yes, actually, we have quite a bit. As you saw, we're over 8,600 square feet and significant parking, and we've spoken with a number of people around that. And there is not any, there's just not any space available in town to that amount. And the other part to that is the price. I think we've been fortunate to have worked with good people through the years, both the previous owner and the owner today, who understand that we are a board of education and we're looking to be as good stewards of our resources, and what they're looking for us to be content tenants. So they've been very fair, I think, with our rent amounts. And if we were looking to move to a space, and again, given the unique nature of the work, if we were to look to move to a space, it's it's very likely that we would need to do tenant improvements prior to occupying the space regardless. So we did look into that. We spoke with a number of people, and from the space need to the location to the parking. We have also spoken with a few folks in town about town buildings, and there are no town buildings available for us to move into either. I know they're looking at performing a study about that, about use of space and at a town level. But again, for us at 8,600 square feet and the parking needs and the sort of the customized needs for the space that as we need it, there's nothing available. So.
Thanks.
Sherry.
So I just want to say that I fully support this plan to improve the safety and security of the central office. And I think, unfortunately, given the modern realities and the political environment, I think to have a central office with no reception protocol is, unfortunately, I no longer think that's safe or appropriate. So I definitely support, this reconfiguration plan.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hazel?
I just want to say I support the plan also for the reasons that have been mentioned, but also to include in it the efficiencies of being able to have the various departments near each other and in workable space that makes sense as far as the special education and particularly in various rooms that they need and have not had. And this is very helpful. I think the spaces actually match the needs, which is an important part of having any office building. So I would be supporting it on that grounds too.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Maria?
Well, I definitely think, you need updated space, and it's a good time to, I support the idea. I'm just wondering why we don't have sort of an analysis attached as far as the savings, the rental. And my other point, financial numbers. My other point is, now that this is out there, would it be something that, what if a building owner in town wanted to put in a similar type of bid? If we sign the lease tonight, can't do that. So I'm just, how do we make sure we're getting the most competitive offer that's out there?
Sure. We've performed an analysis of space that's available in town. There were no buildings with the space that we need or the parking that we need as we look at it, sort of those pieces together. The agreement that we would be going into, which was distributed to the board Friday, so the agreement that we'd be going into is 10 years, and it does include in it the ability for the Board of Education with 12-month notice to leave, to relocate to a town-owned building, which is the current clause that we have in our contract now. And then after the 10 years, that remains with a 12-month notice that we can leave the agreement to go into a town-owned building. If we were to do so, the terms of this are that we would repay the remaining balance on the tenant improvements, but we still could leave. If there were a better deal somewhere, we could leave the agreement. That has been the lease. Those have been the terms of the lease for a while that we've had. So we felt like keeping that was the right thing to do. As far as making the owner whole on the tenant improvements, first we would be benefiting from those improvements for that period of time that we're using them. And then the owner of the building would have to undo the improvements to redo the building unless there happens to be another person who needs the entire third floor at over 5,500 square feet, which is very unlikely. Again, performing the analysis and taking a look. So that's sort of some of the terms of the agreement. The owner has shown us the specifics around cost, and it's a break-even proposition for him. And we've seen those numbers and we know that.
Sangeeta?
Yeah, I think we were very fortunate to have this new owner come in, as he did, because it kind of got us to focus on the space. It hasn't been ideal in the perfect sense because it's always been something where you kind of made it work because that was what was available, and now we have a chance to kind of look. And I think there has been analysis done at looking at other places in town for the amount of space. I mean, it's like a good amount of space, and people have thrown a lot of ideas out. but they've been followed through to say like, well, it won't work for this particular reason or that reason. And luckily, we have someone who is willing to work with us at what seems to be a reasonable cost, once you factor in the efficiency that we get by using that space and reorganizing it. So I'm very supportive of this proposal because it seems to meet our needs. And like I said, there's not any real alternative that I see, and this solves the needs for security and having a central place, and just the location is ideal for people coming in. So,
I should also just let you know that Shipman and Goodwin has reviewed the lease and the amendment for us. We've been in conversation with them about the terms, about different pieces to that, and received their feedback, and we've worked together very collaboratively with the owner as we've developed this amendment that you've seen.
Anyone else?
Just want to say,
Penny.
I think this is a long overdue fix for the Board of Ed offices. I mean, we had the failed referendum back, I think, in 2001. So the problem was a significant enough problem at that point that that Board of Ed tried to solve it. And this is an efficient solution. It's an efficient space utilization. I think it's very smart to be able to move the tech department here. So I believe the Long Range Planning Committee actually put around 9,000 square feet or so, 9,500 square feet, what this Board of Ed needed. So I think that they're making do and efficiently using the space that they have. The Long Range Planning Committee looked at all the town buildings, and there are no town buildings that exist. The town hall building, there was not space in the town hall. There wasn't enough parking to make the town hall big enough for the Board of Ed. So I think this is a great solution, and we've seen the financials in executive session. You vetted it with the professionals in town and our lawyers, and I think it's an excellent solution.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and I guess you get to stay there, or are you going to come back
No, I'll
here?
come back around.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is the strategic planning overview, and Dr. Dlotzy will give us that as well, from a different point of view.
Yes, I often laugh that being a high school principal was great training for a superintendent because you learn to change gears very quickly all throughout the day. So I would like to just give a brief introduction to the strategic planning process that we talked about briefly a few weeks back. A little over a year ago, the board wisely created a strategic planning steering committee with several goals: to research various models of strategic planning, to consider several approaches, and to develop a plan to initiate this important work. In the time since, the members of the committee have worked diligently towards these goals, and I'm proud to announce this evening that thanks to their good efforts, we're poised to begin a district-wide strategic planning review and coherence process in the fall of 2016. Strategic planning, which most people credit to the Harvard Business School from the 1920s, looks very different depending upon the organization, or in our case, the school district where it occurs. Since our previous strategic planning work in 2003, our district has been guided by our district goals, each of which has served us quite well. Thanks to these goals, we're starting our process from an ideal place. As I've mentioned in budget presentations, our consistent focus on the 5 goals has significantly contributed to our ongoing success. And our strategic planning process will provide us with an opportunity to reflect upon these goals, to refine, if necessary, our efforts, and to recommit to our mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives district-wide. There are several steps to strategic planning, each of which will be discussed and developed more deeply in September with the board. But some processes of note are environmental scanning, system-wide alignment, and identifying multiple metrics of success. In the environmental scanning phase of the process, the Strategic Planning Committee will be looking at indicators internally and externally of our district's success. We'll be identifying what all successful graduates of New Canaan High School should know and be able to do in order to thrive in the future. And then we'll be looking backwards to identify opportunities for and indicators of these qualities. This study will include looking at our recent graduates, our current upperclassmen, and our entire student body in order to identify successes and opportunities. We'll be looking locally, statewide, nationally, and globally to identify best practices, understand today's environment, and consider our goals in relation to measurable and student-centered outcomes. Strategic planning is also a useful tool to facilitate process alignment between our goals, indicators, and strategies on a student, teacher, school, and district level. In this respect, we'll be looking at the ways that instruction, professional practice, and systems help sustain excellent student outcomes in our classrooms while identifying high-leverage areas for our future work. As we work our way through, we'll be reflecting upon different levels of our work to assure there's tight alignment between and among them, and that resources are allocated according to our goals. Many in the media would like us to believe that the educational experience can be boiled down to a single metric of comparison. Those of us actively engaged in this work in education know that this approach is misinformed. The strategic planning process will help our school system to identify a wide range of indicators by which to gauge our success and our progress. These indicators will include external standardized measures, such as the SAT and other standardized assessments, but will also include other internal measures, such as participation rates in extracurricular activities. These internal and external will be qualitative and quantitative measures. So by developing an array of indicators through which to understand our schools at all levels, the strategic planning efforts will help us to identify and celebrate the outstanding work that's occurring at our schools, while also helping us to ensure its sustainability system-wide. Not only does this process help our system avoid the vicious cycle of chasing the next headline for a new ranking system, it also provides us with the opportunity to validate at all levels the excellence in our school system, while also empowering us to focus our efforts on the highest leverage areas for the benefit of all of our students. As I hope you can tell, I'm excited about this important work that's ahead of us as we prepare to engage in a strategic planning process this fall. As the work gets underway, we'll be creating a representative work group to spearhead the effort, and there will be multiple opportunities for parents, students, community members, and all stakeholders to provide feedback along the way. By working together, I'm confident we can continue to build on the excellence of the New Canaan Public Schools to ensure our students' success now and in their futures. So, just wanted to let the board know about that and ask if there were any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Lutzy. It's, I think it's going to be a very, informative and I think developmentally exciting time for the board. So, anybody have any questions for Dr. Lutzy? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. September's going to be an exciting time.
It sure is. It always is.
All right. Moving on to the statement of counts with Dr. Keating.
Well, good evening. You have before you the financial report through the month of April, so 10 months of activity within the budget year. I would like to state that we are in the process of reconciling with the town right now, so this is an unreconciled financial statement. If there are any changes, I'll bring them to your attention at the next meeting. We are, however, reconciled within our own processes in the business office, so I just wanted to mention that. At this point in time, we are 74.5% expended through the year on our budget. We have 21.65% of the budget encumbered, and that's primarily in the area of benefits and salaries. And as you know, this year we continue to pay salaries for our teachers through the summer. So as we get into the financial reports going forward, you're not going to see us fully expended on salaries at the end of June. That'll carry through the summer. And for unanticipated, we have 3.83%. So we're really getting down to the end of our budget. And of that 3.83%, $575,000 is in unallocated after the transfers this month, and 57% of that remaining balance to be encumbered is really involved with salaries and benefits that are not conducive to encumbering. So I think that we're in a pretty good place right now. As we move forward, we're going to have a few accounts, as we've mentioned in the past months, that will require transfers at the end of the year. We just really can't nail those down right now. And at this point in time, it does appear that there's potential transfers within the category, so we won't need to go to the unallocated accounts. But I will keep you updated on that as we move forward. There are 3 transfers on this report for action later on the agenda. The first one is from the unallocated account to professional technical services for $5,000. The budget did include $10,000 for special audits, but based on the year-end audit for 2015 with regards to student activity accounts and the cafeteria fund, we did perform an in-depth audit that went beyond the $10,000. So it's going to come in around $15,000, so I'll need this additional transfer for that. The second item is for non-representative salaries, and it's $11,157. And that basically results from a few things. We've had employee turnover in the business office that has created some overlap. And we also have had a minor classification for an employee who's working on the Munis program. So that should carry us through the end of the year. And next year's budget unrepresented should be adequate to cover these expenses. And then finally, we continue to have additional expenses in facility specialists. And the areas are at Sac School and West, where we've really had a couple of projects that require additional funding. And as we go through the end of the year, we may actually have more. I mention this every month, but things do come up in the area of facilities that are unforeseen and require our action almost immediately to take care of them. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Well, I think when you have buildings and the age that we have in this community, the fact that we have, transfers within the facilities account is very well understood, I think, by everybody on the board. Are there any questions? Okay. Sherry.
I was just going to make more of a comment. I just thought it was very helpful, and maybe would ask Brendan to maybe repeat what he explained at the workshop 2 weeks ago about the standing review and control that the Resources Committee has over the statement of accounts.
Sure. Part of what we do in the Resources Committee is at the end of the month review the statement of accounts, ask questions of Joanne to the extent we have them, get those questions answered, and sort of one initial level of review before it comes to the board.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So we're moving on to the action items section of the agenda. And the first item on our action items is the Board of Ed Bylaws Series 9000 first read. And if I could get a move to approve as a first read the Board of Ed Policy Series 9000, our bylaws, as presented and reviewed by the Governance Subcommittee at our May 2nd workshop. If I could have a motion for a first read. Sherry? Second? Sangeeta? We'll move into discussion, and I'm going to open it up to Tom to lead that off.
Terrific. Thank you. I'd like to start by just giving a quick review of the process, because we've been moving rather quickly as a committee, and I just want to remind everybody once again of how the process works. We're kind of knee-deep in it, so it's very easy for us to see how it all flows, but when you get an email asking for questions or comments on it, sometimes it can be difficult for you, I suspect, to understand where to start with some of those questions and comments. So again, a quick review of the process of reviewing and revising our policy manual. First, the Governance Committee works with CABE on a draft of each of the 9 series that make up our policy manual. Second, we provide the board with the draft for first read. The first of which, of course, is Bylaws Series 9000, and you received that several weeks ago. We then ask for questions and comments from the board, which, again, I did last week by email. Those questions will focus on existing bylaws, obviously. They'll also focus on new bylaws that have been suggested by the Governance Committee in working with CABE. And they'll also focus on replacement of existing bylaws, as recommended again by the Governance Committee in consultation with CABE. So that's really what you're looking at. You're looking at existing bylaws, new bylaws, and the replacement of bylaws per our recommendation. We did receive a number of questions last week. We'll need to review these as a committee. We've sort of exchanged a few emails and know that we have to get with CABE on some of these questions, but feel that can be easily worked out prior to our second read. So the plan will be to have a governance committee meeting prior to the second read and address all those questions, and again ask for you with a revised draft to provide us with additional comments and questions so that we can remain on target for our June 20th approval of, again, bylaws Series 9000.
Great. And I think, as a committee, we'd also like to mention that, you still have time to get comments into us, for consideration before the second read, and, would open it up to our next committee meeting to any member that would like to attend to, add their comments to the review process in advance of the June 20th second read. So, any other comments? Penny?
I guess one of the things I wanted to see was if it was easy to provide, if Kate could get it for us, a list of all the bylaws that we aren't revising. Because it looked to me like there were a couple that we had that, for whatever reason, were not being included in the new bylaws unless I missed it. And then just sort of a statement about,
No, you didn't miss it.
maybe I was wrong with that.
No, it's an excellent question. Part of what we're doing is not just revising, but we're putting in order bylaws and policies. So what might happen in certain instances, again, and this is what, me being knee-deep in this, I can see relatively easily, but not so easy if you're not working on this week to week. But something like Article 2, Section 3, Superintendent, which is right in our bylaws now, that was not in the revision. That will be moved to policy, Series 2000, addressing administration. And I think CABE needs to provide that annotation on the page so we know that it's not just disappearing into thin air, but it's being moved to another section for review and revision at a later date.
Right.
So we
if
will
they
do
could-
that for you.
If they could do that, that would be
We will
great.
do
Because
that for you.
I
It's the
I
answer.
found there were a couple, and I didn't know
Yeah.
if they were still. And then I guess one of the things, I was looking through the drafts, and I was looking at the roles of the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. And, having been on the board a long time, I've seen a number of different management styles with the chair. And I think that this, looking at these bylaws, gives this board a philosophical opportunity to decide what type of management structure do we want to have. You can have one that's more team-based, or you can have one that's a little bit, puts a little bit more power in the chair. And I just thought it would be something that we should think about as board members where we wanted to do it. I mean, sort of the vice chair basically is there to step in support of the chair, and the secretary is really just kind of is sort of an admin, not really a particularly interesting role as it's described in the bylaws. So, we have the opportunity, if we want to change that, to do that now. So I just would want people to think about that and see what type of management structure, we think would set the board up well, for the future on that point.
Great recommendation.
Yeah, thank you, Penny. That's a great comment. And it is, this is the time to, we're talking strategic planning and, looking at the way we want the board to function. So that's great. And I think the other thing that CABE can give us is, which I don't think any of you received, but, as a committee, we received a one-pager of all the bylaws that they were suggesting and where we have language currently, where they would make suggested changes, and then, I think the next column that we can add is the edit. So
Exactly.
So I think the system sort of exists. It just needs one more. Okay. Any other comments or questions? So please, if you have, it's helpful the earlier you can get your comments to the committee. Tom is receiving those. It's helpful so that we have an opportunity to work with CABE to review them, because if we need some time. So
I guess the only other one I'd want for the board to think about is on the committee role. And I had mentioned this to you, Deanna. And basically, I think we're sort of flat, and I think it's very helpful to have the chair of the board to actually be on a committee. maybe not to chair it, because I think you want to have a separate chair. And so we might want to think about, I think the current draft says that the chair is an ex officio member of all committees, but I think that we would want to change that to allow the chair to be a regular committee member, as well as being the chair of the board. So that would be something I would just want people to philosophically think about how they wanted to balance all that.
Yeah, and I think, as Tom and I have discussed, there's some, Robert's Rules, things that have to be taken into consideration in addition to, sort of practical considerations and sort of how we address that language across the bylaws to make everything consistent, so.
Right, and it's consistency that we're looking for. But you're right, if that's something we're interested in doing, make the change and be consistent, with that change. So you can't be ex officio and
And a regular.
And a regular-
And a regular
Exactly.
member, so it kind
So
of,
that's my
so
point, yes.
anyhow.
Yeah.
And I think Robert's Rules is like, they're wonderful and they're a great starting place, but then I think each organization can
That's
kind of
exactly
amend
right.
them to
Right.
fit
Right.
their needs.
And fit their needs. Sometimes it has to do with size or function,
Right.
but yes, need to fit the needs.
But I think it points to what you're thinking is that this is the time to do it, as we're looking at this, to make sure that they really reflect what we want to do, how we want to do it, and then modify them as needed, rather than just saying, this is a strict adhesion to, this is Robert's Rules of Order, and they're very antiquated, some of them.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay, thank you. So we'll, don't forget to get your comments and questions. All right, the next item on the action items is the statement of accounts. Could I get a motion to approve the current period transfers as presented in the statement of accounts? Brendan, second. Hazel, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, thank you. And then the last item is the office lease amendment. May I get a motion to authorize the superintendent to enter into lease amendment number 1 with FJL Holdings LLC? Sherry, second. Sangeeta, all those in favor? Sure, we can do discussion. Sure, any discussion before we vote?
Is there going to be a lease amendment 2? This is lease amendment 1, I'm just wondering how that
In
works.
10 years.
Oh, that's it, this is it just to start the process?
Yep. This
Okay.
is our first lease amendment with
Ever.
FJL because they're the new owners. And they subsumed the existing lease. So this is an amendment to the 1992 lease.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
And then in the lease, it does say at the conclusion of this term, we do have the right to go into another 5-year term with them at the pre-negotiated rental amounts. And that would be number 2.
Any other questions or discussion? So we have a motion and a second on the table. Could I have all those in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda that you have before you? Sherry, second. Hazel, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. All right, comments from the public. And I don't see any public, so we will move on to announcements and future business. Dr. Letzi.
Sure, we have an action-packed meeting again next, in June, our first meeting in June, which is the last meeting that we have while school is in session, which is hard to believe. We will be honoring our CABE awardees. We will also be taking some time to honor our retirees. And as we did last year, beginning at 6:30, you're welcome to join us for a light reception for our retirees, just prior to the meeting, if you can make it here. We also have a STEM presentation. They have been working diligently to put together really a picture of our STEM efforts, K through 12, doing a wonderful job with that. And of course, that relates to Sue's comments earlier about our work, your work as a board, and our work in the district to develop and continue to foster that interest in STEM careers. We also will have a Sachs Building Project update. And at that time, we'll be learning a little bit more about the status of the plan and talking more about our summer plans as well. Lots to do.
I'll just interrupt there and say that on June 2nd, at 2 p.m. For the parents and at 3 p.m. for the teachers, we're going to have presentations at Saks from Ty and Bond, giving the presentation, which this board has already seen, and also from O&G talking about the safety plan for how the construction will go forward. So any board members that are around and would like to attend one of those sessions are most welcome to do so. O&G will not be able to be here June 6th, so that's why we moved it to June 2nd for them to do it.
Okay.
Great.
Sherry?
Just a comment, to have a parent meeting at 2 p.m. I think is a difficult time because 7th grade and up is dismissed at 2.
We'll take it up with Mr. Macedo. That was the time that he suggested.
Yeah, I just think it's a difficult time for parents. And obviously,
We're
want
certainly
good
willing
attendance,
to
so-
take it under
yeah.
advisement. I
Yeah.
don't think it's set in stone.
It'll be that day, and we can
It
talk
will
about
be
the
June
time.
2nd.
Okay.
Sure, we can do that.
That's great. That's good feedback. Thank you. Right, anything else?
No?
Okay,
No.
all right, great. All right, so if I could get a motion to adjourn to executive session in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 1-206. The subject to be discussed is personnel matters for the purpose of discussing the employment and/or performance of an individual who has been notified and who agrees that it shall be held in an executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn to executive? Hazel. Second. Tom. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.